Welcome back to Perception Paradox. My name is Jubila and I'm your host. And it's been 100 times now that I told you, welcome to Perception Paradox on this podcast channel. Oh yeah, what a milestone. Who would have thought 2 years ago when I started with this idea that I had no idea if it would last 10 episodes, let alone 100. And I guess we are only starting. And for this very special occasion, I found myself in London, a meeting with Anisah Osman Britton, who was also my first guest of Perception Paradox 2 years ago in October. I found it very special because she was one of those people who believed in this crazy idea of launching a podcast in the saturated market, even before it had legs. And she was also going through quite some different new ideas, tackling uncomfortable truths and conversations. And that was about time when she started launching her Brown Bodies initiative, community movement in public as well. So I always saw Anisah as a frontier with anything she does. She's a thought leader. She's a very inspiring woman, entrepreneur. She launched back in the days also the Coding Academy before Women in Tech was a very strong global movement, and did incredible other work, especially focused on impact, diversity, inclusion. She's a very good journalist. She's an incredible writer. And I could continue, but having her in my 100th episode of the podcast, returning 2 years later and doing kind of a bit of a check-in and just having a conversation on her couch in a new apartment where she has just moved in, literally when I came to her place, it was her second day there. So that was also very special to have the doors open, to meet her dog, who you can see in the whole video. So if you're looking for some kind of inspiration, if you've been waiting for a long time to start something, just tune into this episode and listen what we've been up to, what Anisah's been up to, and how she's tackling and navigating the challenges of creating something new, and especially in the fields that can be uncomfortable and require courage, clarity, conviction. So yeah, I guess let's celebrate and let's dive in. Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Jivila, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very, very special episode which reaches the number 100. And today I'm in London with Anisah Osman Britton, a good friend of mine and media star in the startup scene and media operations, inspiration, creator, everything you would name it. And this episode is special not only because I'm here visiting Anisah and catching up with her, but also because Anisah was the first one on Perception Paradox who believed in this crazy idea I had to bring out the stories, who supported me with all my roller coaster along the way. And I thought that would be very special to have her as the 100th episode 2 years later and to see where we are today.
That's so cute. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. You've done so much in 100 episodes.
It was a journey, actually. They started bi-weekly, a few months later moved weekly, and then had periods of 2 times per week. It's wild.
Yeah, it's wild. This is why I believed in you. Obviously, you're crazy. If anyone was going to do it, it was you.
Yeah, well, still going on it. Yeah, strong. But it's super cool that you said, yeah, let's do it. And I'm in London. I was like, yes, let's. And I think what's really also interesting, what we've just discovered, that 2 years ago, you were also on this start of your Brown Bodies kind of direction, right? And going more aggressively public. So I think would be very interesting to touch base on that as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we spoke in October 2 years ago, and I think I just started writing it in the May. Yeah. So now we're like 2 years in. And it's really weird because I've had so many ups and downs with it that kind of have gone with my life journey. But I said at the beginning of this year that I wanted to write consistently this year, or at least make Brown Bodies consistent. So we've pretty much been written a piece every week since I said that. I think I said it in March. And if I didn't write a piece, we've had some incredible people like take over, which has been really exciting because I always thought the newsletter would be just me. And now we've had like all these incredible writers come on board, like Nishad, who writes something called Infinity Inklings, Dr. Laura Basu, who writes Love Economics on Substack. There's just been so many incredible writers on there that's like expanded what I thought I would talk about on Brown Bodies, but also brought in a new audience, which has been really, really lovely. Also run out some sold out events in Toronto and London online, which has been really cool as well. I always knew I wanted to do that though. I always knew like it would be the newsletter, but then we would also have events, and then at some point maybe like a podcast or a video series type thing. So that's been happening. And then also partnerships. We've worked with some really cool companies like Lelo, they're like a really cool sexual health wellness brand, with She Spot, which is run by 2 female founders here in the UK. And then like cool influencers like Savannah Sachdev, she's a running influencer. And it's been so cool because I interviewed her quite early on in the journey, and then we've done an event together. And now I see her talking quite a lot about sex on her own personal socials. I'm like, maybe we did something. And then there's been like, a few other partnerships too. So I feel like when I say it out loud, it sounds like I've done a lot, but it feels like I've done nothing. Like every week I'm like, oh my God, I still haven't sent this deck out. I still haven't done this. I still haven't done the podcast. So I still feel like it's very, very early, but at least I have a direction now.
That's so inspiring. I'm going to check if we're recording. Well, talking about, I think I'm even not going to cut it out for the reason that I've done it now more than 100 times, the episodes, and more I'm getting closer also towards the dream destination-based podcast, right? That was my initial dream that I had to shut it.
I remember that.
I had to postpone
and
start somewhere. We had these things where technical things they just don't work. Either the sound disappears or the video disappears. So now I'm like, we have to make this work anyway. But going back now to the Brown Bodies, what I found very inspiring about your journey, that you kind of brought the taboo topic out in the public through your personal experiences as well. And the way you approached it, you had this idea, vision, and the relevance for the communities that you foreseen through partnerships and immediately actually different collaborations that helped you grow. How did you define your initial starting points? We very often get stuck in that big idea, and if there's nobody around us who could break us down, let's say in my case would be like this grand vision for podcast, but in order to get to this grand vision, you really need to break it down, and perhaps I could have done different ways. And you started with partnerships. How did you form this?
That's a very good question. I think when I started Brown Bodies, I didn't know that I was going to turn it into a business. See, even the fact I'm doing this,
I still don't believe it. It's
a business. And I think I'm working with a coach at the moment actually to figure out why I have that hesitance towards calling it a business. And I think I'm so not answering your question. I'll come back.
But it's okay, go for it.
But I think it's because the topic of like love, a lot of the times is minimized. When men talk about love, it's a big deal, right? Like it's a serious topic. But when women talk about love, it becomes a light topic. It feels airy. It feels fairy. I do wonder if I also come under this bracket of being a woman writing in this space. So maybe that's why there's a thing. Why partnerships? Because it's the world I understand. Like I've always built stuff around partnerships. Like in my role as a first-time founder when I was building 23 Code Street, which was a coding school for women, the way we sort of grew the audience was partnering with really cool places like co-working spaces. We partnered with corporates. We then partnered with sort of like organizations like Amalia that were at that time like a smaller media company for Muslim women. They're now huge. So I feel like I know how to grow something in that space. But it also, for me, was a way of being able to learn more about the space, because I started Brown Bodies because I wanted to learn. I came through doing sex therapy, doing therapy. My ex-boyfriend and I were talking a lot about this stuff. And I was like, okay, well, maybe if I write more about it, I will also learn more, and it will stop me from having this taboo in my head, but it will be able to expand it even further. I think I'd already gone past it being a taboo in my head by that point, but it would expand my world. So partnerships enabled me to do that even further, because I was meeting people who were experts in these spaces who could verify what I was saying was true. They could show me different stuff. They gave me vocabulary that I didn't have at that point. So I feel like that was also a really good reason to go down that route.
What do you think helped you to land those partnerships?
Having a very niche community, niche maybe is not the right word, but focused community. Like we are focused on the South Asian diaspora. And although it is for the South Asian diaspora, the readers aren't necessarily all from a South Asian background, which I think is really fascinating. But having that focus has meant that partners know who we're talking to and they might be wanting to reach out to those people. I think it's been easier to land because there's some credibility to who I am. With brown bodies at the beginning of my career, maybe that wouldn't be true. For example, one of the partners I worked with know me from my tech life. Other people are working with me because I know I worked as sort of a tech reporter at Sifted. So I feel like I come with sort of a bit of a stamp of approval that I'm not just a newbie to running something. And I think the other one is just like, I'm very earnest. I'm very honest about how I do things. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't know what this is going to look like, but I know like with your support, we can go from 0 to 1. Now I guess we're at 0.5. So the messaging is slightly different, but there's still that thing of I'm learning and I would love you on board to take us to the next level. I think is probably the truth.
That's exciting. I think what I like about your way of working, no matter in which field, including the brown bodies and other tech fields, your honesty. That no matter what, you're not going to come and lie about the experience or your views. You have sometimes even contrarian views from society, but you own it and you're not afraid to communicate that.
Thank you.
I find it's very relevant and it's something that we're losing nowadays, especially in the media world. Talking about media. So how is it growing media business nowadays when everything is a media, everyone is a creator, a lot of content is actually outsourced by artificial intelligence and through scraping? How is that going for you?
That's a good question. And it's not my full-time job yet. And I think that's really, really key part of being able to build this without pressure is that I don't do this full-time. I say I do it 2 days a week, but I guess I think about it more than that. I see myself more as creator adjacent. I don't call myself a creator. A common friend that we both have, James Song, would actually slap me because he'll be like, why are you not saying that you're a creator? And I guess it's because bigger vision for me is that this becomes a team around it. And I don't want it to be just me. And I see a world where all the different bits of stuff that I do, the brown bodies, the tech stuff, the freelance stuff, all comes under a bigger umbrella. So to answer your question, I think because I don't frame myself as a media company and I'm framing myself more as like a tech-led space or like an events-led space, because that's the only thing I know, it's enabling me to access different pots of money. And I think that is probably the way we're going to see things go. A bit like the creator thing, right? Individuals get their money from sponsorships, from brand partnerships, from events, from podcasts, like really diversifying how your income comes in. Is how I see brown bodies. That doesn't really answer your question.
In a way, it does, because we will move now to the follow-up question, right?
Okay.
Because it does answer. You just mentioned that you're not building the media company, right? And the way we are building companies is changing 360 degrees, different source from sponsors to incomes to kind of, I would call it, it's all about the community at the end of the day, and the media publication is just one part for you to engage with the brown bodies community.
Exactly.
If I got it right.
Correct.
So it's kind of this big vision in your terms. And for me, when I was coming here to talk to you, and I was like, oh, what we're going to catch up about? Because the first episode, we kind of went through your entrepreneurial journey, how you, before it was very common thing, you built a coding school for women and for girls, right? And then you continued your navigating your life through very different roles within the startup scene. And right now you're kind of, it seems like you're building the media business, but that's way more besides the media business of the brown bodies. And for me, the way I see it from the side, that it's a lot about redefining the way we create connections and also the way we date, right? And from the stats, we see that the dating, it's kind of in a terrible state. The latest stats shows that the Tinder usage and all the most popular dating apps are decreasing. And we are tired of this constant dating, social profile, validation life, right? It becomes kind of dopamine channel rather than relationship creation channel. Where do you think we're heading now when it comes to love search and this whole industry. A lot of money is thrown there to optimize to some kind of AI chat box, to AI telling you how to do the hookup line. But what you are representing is a lot about the human connection more than the technology. What are you noticing with the trends, and what's our future of love?
The future of love. I'm the worst person to ask for this. I feel like Brown Body started at a really good time because of all of this. Like, people are fatigued by dating apps. It doesn't work. Like, Hinge obviously says, it's not that it doesn't work. It's just, like you say, there's a lot of people on there. It's not clear what people are on there for. Sometimes people are just using it as a pastime. Like, there's so much choice that it makes it feel hard to know if you found the right person. You know, like, there's always someone better if you swipe again. But what we're seeing, quite interestingly, and also, actually, let me add one more thing. A lot of the dating apps are owned by one or two very big companies. So when you think that one isn't working, so you'll go to another, you're actually using the same thing. Like, Match.com owns so many companies, and the acquisition game is so huge. So I think that is an issue. And we are seeing this move, though, towards people being in search of community. And so there's this kind of crossover between dating and community that is happening. And there are apps like Time Left, where you go and have dinner with like 20 people.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there's a few like that are quite like popping up. There are very niche specific ones, that are like Muslim only ones that are popping up. There are like go on hike ones that are popping up. So I think we're seeing a drive towards almost this conflation of dating and friendship. And it's like, how do you make that a tech company, which is what we're seeing? And the truth is, I don't know if you can, because what we're seeing in the tech companies is AI driven stuff, like you said, people scraping, lots of bots. So people are trying to move away to it, moving towards a more in-person situation. And I think that's kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool that the rebellion from the apps is IRL, which makes sense. But I do think it's really interesting that we're seeing companies like Time Left really, really picking up. I think they used to run only on a Wednesday in London, and now I think they run on like a Wednesday and a Friday. It used to be just dinner, now they do drinks. They've just launched like women's only stuff, which is really cool. People want to make friends, and maybe it leads to something else. And then there's diaspora, which I think is really fascinating. And from like a South Asian perspective, I wrote a piece about one that had popped up last year that did quite well. One that I do not recommend, but I thought it was a really fascinating experience, that it was for just Muslims, and they kind of operated a bit like Raya. So it was like upmarket, that's the wrong word.
Which is, for the ones who don't know, Raya is like the invite-only community.
It was celebrity only.
Celebrity only, and then you can get there on if you get social approval.
Yeah, and it's opened up a bit more now, but now there's obviously, so then now they're doing that for Muslims. It's interesting that that's happening. But then there's like the ones that have been around for ages that are gaining popularity again. So you mentioned to me earlier, Shadi.com. That's been the joke in my family for the longest time.
Tell me why.
Because it's like, if you're single, just go on Shadi.com and we'll find you someone. And it's like, no, I don't want to do that. But actually now I see the appeal as to why people were using it and why more and more are. I guess earlier on it was for the older generation. Maybe it's because I am the older generation now.
But it's interesting that the way we came up with this, right? I told you, I read some stats that right now, younger generation, especially from the South diaspora, where we had more a tradition of pre-arranged marriage, they got so tired of dating that literally, maybe it was a joke or something, but young people are turning back into pre-arranged marriages to make their life easier. And someone likes thinking about building an app, of course, because we build apps for everything.
We build apps for everything.
Which is quite interesting. Whereas as a society, we're referring back to the point, the need of human-centric, perhaps, technology, rather than technology that kind of a bit destroys our thinking.
It's interesting, right? Because arranged marriages in its concept are just introductions. They're like family introductions. Yeah. There's a big difference between arranged marriages and forced marriages, and it's not something we should explore right now, but go Google it. What we're seeing both in South Asian diaspora and across people is people wanting more common connections. So there are apps that have been built here in New York where you can only match with someone if you have a friend in common. There's another one that I saw that launched, I think, in January this year, which was you run my profile for me. So you would swipe for me because apparently your friends know you better than yourself and stop me meeting ridiculous men. So there's definitely been a move towards that. And
my
then
gosh.
Charlie.com, what's really interesting about it is it's run by your parents. Sometimes you can choose.
Oh,
So either
okay.
you can run it or you can outsource it to your parents, and your parents sort of like run your profile. There's some really good in that, and there's some really shady practices in that, because also Shadi.com allows you to share things like your finances, your caste, your background. So a lot of people, like, the criticism towards it is that it can perpetuate some of the bad, like the caste system and stuff. But the good is that it gives you another layer of like, hey, this guy's cool or this girl is cool. I do think the push to IRL is a good one.
That's awesome. So, okay, so brown bodies. It's been 2 years. I do recall 2 years ago also when you shared some great practical tips about choosing the entrepreneurial life, but at the same time, being aware that not everyone has the luxury to just quit everything and build, and there are people you have to take care around you, or including yourself, and pay rent. And what you're saying right now, what you have is still more full-time or more hours required commitments with the VC fund, for example, right? And you continue building at your own pace.
Yeah.
So now, after 2 years, it started all as a newsletter. It started all as a still more media company. It evolved into both event space, community. What's your big vision? What do you want to achieve with the brown bodies?
I don't say it out loud very often because I feel like the more you say something out loud before it happens, the harder it is to achieve, because it starts to change with people's opinions. But I think the way I would say it is, I see a world where brown bodies sits underneath a bigger umbrella, where it is one of many. But within brown bodies, I see events, I see podcasts, I see the vlog happening. It's coming. The video series is coming.
Yeah, we can start with this video.
Yeah, it's coming. It's actually going to be good. It's just taking time, but that's okay. Like, I see products being built under the Brown Bodies brand. Like, it definitely will be an umbrella company where the newsletter is one of many things. And I think that is the way we're going to see a lot of media companies move. See? Media company. I don't believe it's a media company.
It's interesting to hear that, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be a diversified brand. Someone was like, "You say this, but can you just sell merch?" I'm like, "No, I'm not selling merch yet."
And is it like brand focused on what? On the topics of love, sex, relationships?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like everyone thinks the next step would be, say, like a dating app, but I don't think that is it for me. I do see events being a really big part of it. And events, for me, kind of sit under two things, which is events being the live interviews, Q&As, which do really well. And then there's like the workshop, the educational pieces. Like, we did a 101 intro to vibrators, which was so much fun.
Wow.
We learned so much. And it's all Chatham House rules, you know, all of that stuff. So that being there, then having the straight up media, which is like newsletter, podcast, video, all of that. And then like products on this side, which the push towards niche products is so huge right now because of AI, and it's so much quicker to build things and to ship things, that the nicher you get, the better. It's so easy to bloat things, so people are going to start looking for very specific use cases. And I feel like I'm willing to bet on that too.
That is super cool. That's really inspiring. I can't wait to see where it leads you with this whole overall huge vision. That perhaps, you know, going in small steps. Well, you already mentioned technology, all is going fine. What are you excited about? What's happening right now in the technology landscape?
Oh my God, so much, so much. I'm really excited by the health space. I think I actually said that to you 2 years ago,
Yeah, I think
too.
so.
I feel like it's the same answer. But it's true. Like, there was some really cool research recently about like how much tech is coming into play around like ovaries and women's menstrual cycle tech. There's so much more because there's more and more research being done finally. Like, menopause tech is becoming huge. And I guess it's because a generation of people who started building at the beginning of what I would call the modern tech era are starting to graduate to that age as well. So they're building stuff. Health is definitely a big one. I'm really excited about sex tech. I think we're going to see some really cool stuff. I'm slightly concerned about sex tech, though, when it comes to things like deep fakes and porn. So I feel like there's a line, and I'm curious to see what regulation is going to do for that space in the next sort of 2 years. What else am I excited by? I think just like the the ease and scale to grow things as a one-person team. I think you're very good at that as a person. You're very, very good at it. And I think you leverage a lot of stuff. And I think we're going to see more and more people who have the skills to do a lot being able to move even faster with tools like AI and products that are being built on top of it. Because I think that's the other problem. Like at the moment, we say AI, but actually we want more niche stuff that we can just like package in that we don't then have to build. For example, like mail merge stuff. Like today, someone told me about a product called Yam and it makes it easier. And I'm like, cool. Or for example, like my browser now, I'm using Perplexity's new browser called Comet, and it just pulls in all my calendars and everything all into one place. So I think that is going to enable like the solo entrepreneur to do a lot more with a lot less.
So what kind of other tools are you using actually currently we have collaborators, but you are a sole entrepreneur.
Yeah. I have some great advisors who are on board and they keep me accountable. But tools that I'm using, I'm Notion, like through and through. I'm using Comet and Perplexity quite a lot, especially for fact checking stuff. Please, if you're fact checking though, please go and read the footnotes, go check the references, because I'm seeing so many people think they're fact checking and it's just pulled from ChatGPT, which will often give you answers that you've already fed it. So please go read the references. It's not difficult. But I'm using that quite a lot. Perplexity for stuff. I use ChatGPT definitely as a first driver of things sometimes, just to be like, okay, I'm looking for dating apps that talk about, I don't know, brown people, and it will just pull me a first like round of stuff. So it will start me off on my research. What else am I using quite a lot?
Perfect.
That's probably the
Very
most.
good. Since you mentioned being a solo founder and navigating life from moving places to kind of redefining how do we see this media landscape and making it more 360 degrees, how do you cope when the things get hard?
I mean, you know me. It's taken me a long time to start building again, like a long, long time. And I feel like I'm the calmest I've been in 5 years. My friend said to me today that women reach emotional maturity at 32, and I just turned 32. I'm like, this is it. This is why. No, but I think I haven't coped very well with bad things over time, and I've spent a lot of time speaking to a therapist, and now I've got a work coach as well, and I think it's really enabled me to regulate quicker. I think that's what it's about. It's been about regulating quicker and having like my rituals that bring me back to the present. It's so easy, right? Like, you know this, to get lost in the shit that you did that went wrong or the future that hasn't happened yet. Yeah. And it's like, I just need to be here. So like I journal every morning, for example, and I journal every night. Yeah. And it's just those things of connecting back to myself. Yeah. I think I do a lot more.
So, good point about the ease to get lost in the shit that, for example, happened the wrong way. I could have sitting here now and still complaining how one of the recordings did not happen, and that's why I'm checking the video because I'm like now scared. Anyway, it's gonna be fixed. But so we're getting closer to the end, but I have a couple of more questions. One of them that they often hear: how did you find your coach, or where did you find? Is it through networks, some programs? For example, if someone who's listening to us and considers getting a coach, where do people start?
Your network. Ask people who they've worked with and why they were good. Go to people in a similar space to you, in a field to you. I already knew this person and they've been really great as a starting point, but I interviewed 4 coaches before I decided on who I was going to work with.
Okay.
So I think that's really important. Speak around. But you can also, like, there are so many people posting on LinkedIn. I would just always check that they've done the things that you want them to have done. Like, I wanted someone who had built a company already. I wanted someone who sort of understood that journey. But there are others who are really great out there who are maybe like speaking coaches, focus on your personal branding going outwards. I didn't need that. I wanted the focus to be on me executing and the barriers to me executing. Like, why have I not been doing it for the last 3 years, right? So that's been, that would be my suggestion. Talk to people who you know already have someone, and talk to the people in the spaces that you want to operate in.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. We're getting closer to the end, and I hope you remember, well, I don't know if you remember,
Okay.
we have a tradition in the podcast, and it still continues,
Okay.
to leave the listeners with a thought to ponder. So today we wrapped up and covered a bit your way of building company, and perhaps redefining, that's regaining the strength to build it, and as well as a bit shining the light what's happening in the dating life. But now, what would be your question to ponder for everyone who is listening to us today, perhaps building and yeah.
My big one, and you and I have talked about this, is be conscious of who you're working with and that they align with who you are and what you want to see in the world. Building a company it's powerful, right? You are paying people money, you are taking on money, you are creating jobs. And I think it's really, really important to align your work with what you want to see in the world. I'm very open about what those things are. For example, like I won't work with a company that I know is anti-Palestine. Like I won't do it. Like it's very core to what I believe and what I think should be happening in this world. And therefore my money and my skills and my network are part of my resistance to a genocide. And I think that's really important. Know what your values are and who you're willing to work with.
Thank you, Anisah, for sharing. And I hope we're going to meet each other for the podcast episode. Again, when I reach 1,000.
Can we go to Ericeira for the next one?
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. And thank you guys who joined us today for this cozy conversation. I would call it more like catch up on what's been happening on building a dream and not giving up on that and staying resilient. I hope you've got inspired. It's been the 100th episode of Perception Paradox, and yeah, only up and forward. Have a great day wherever you are, and yeah, see you next week.